and for the next, I guess, the next conferences and workshops that are coming up. So we're now going to start, so just before lunch, we're going to start this next session, and our first speaker is Artur, who I think is able to now share his screen. And Artur's going to tell us about, I guess, how DataSHIELD has been deployed in RECAP-Preterm.
So, thank you very much. Here today, I'm here to talk to you about our experience in deploying not only DataSHIELD but the whole OBIBA stack across a set of distributed instances across several universities and other research institutes. And we did this in the scope of RECAP-Preterm, which is about children born, cohorts of children born preterm across Europe. So the challenge is to have means of harmonizing these studies and conduct joint studies within the scope of this partner. So this is a brief agenda of what I will tell you. What is Coral? Why it was done? What functionalities it encompasses? Where it's currently deployed, and where to find out more about it. So basically, Coral is a Docker-based solution with the aim of facilitating the deployment, the configuration and management of the OBIBA applications, then also of DataSHIELD and R. We included in Coral a set of services that allow central monitoring of all the nodes, so that we know. Well, usually you have this joke about distributed systems, which says basically it's when it's down, basically it's what prevents you from doing your work. So at least you can do is know what nodes are up and down, and at least what versions of software they are running. Then some choices. First of all, we didn't plan to use the OBIBA stack from the proposal time in RECAP-Preterm. So we set a set of requirements, and happily we were able to find OBIBA and DataSHIELD that were able to match most of these requirements. And this happened along RECAP. So then we had the problem of, so we consulted with the partners and basically asked them, how do you want to do this? And the partners, cutting a long story short, told us that they would like to have their own nodes, that they would like these nodes to have outside visibility, because there are other studies, there are other projects beyond RECAP. So rather than more or less centralized solution in which you have a distributed basically repositories of data, all the partners have all the functionality of included in the OBIBA stack. So they have Opal, they have Mika, they have everything. Then they can share things beyond what RECAP is sharing. And in fact, this happens in some of the nodes. So this calls for a pretty custom solution that allows for some adaptation. They cannot have exactly the same, and they need to make some choices in terms of what they want to and can do. So in addition, virtual machines were kind of hungry in terms of resources. And I mean, we talked with dozens of IT departments, and each of them has naturally their own preference about, I mean, operating systems and whatnot. So we went for something that was more or less the common denominator between all of that, which was Docker, so software containers. So this is more or less what happened. So as I told you, you have all the components of the Optiva stack here. They are included in a Docker container. There is a command line interface that allows each of the managers of the nodes to have a more or less quick and easy configuration of each application. We included also digital certificates, let's encrypt by default, so that partners that did not have their own certificates could at least have something. Of course, it needs to be renewed. It tries to do it automatically as well. We included, because security is so important, we included a module which is mod security and fail to ban. So these are kind of two firewalls, and this addresses the top most vulnerabilities, and fail to ban basically kind of bans brute force attacks. So this is what we have in this Coral development at the moment. So aside from RECAP, we have started You Can Connect. So there are several partners here, and when we started it, Coral was very heavily tailored for RECAP. So what we did was a kind of an abstraction work, and not removing, but setting these configurations apart, and generalize it, and then including the customizations as something that you can have on the site. So pretty much, I think that Coral, for the standard uses of this stack, of the software stack, is easily adapted to other project requirements. Coming back to where I started, then of course you have this network of I think it's at the time it's 14 nodes, and you need to know, of course, well, can I request data from that node? Why is this? I'm using this I don't know, functionality from DataSHIELD, but that node does not have it. So I need to know what versions they are running. So we implemented a monitoring system. Based on Prometheus, which is then used for us to know the health of the network. Of course, that again, IT departments are not very fond of something that is inquiring their systems. So what we did was something that can be easily checked. So they periodically report. They can opt out if they don't feel comfortable with reporting their. Although it doesn't include very sensitive information, they can switch it off if they want to, but it's there. Then, I mean, distributed systems are very nice, but then you need to have a kind of a central facade for a certain use. And for this certain use, which is, for example, RECAP, we do host the central node, which is pretty much like every other node, but does not have data. It has dictionaries for all the others. It points to their nodes to fetch data, and it basically includes a display of how the other systems are behaving. So at this moment, we have this interface that shows us basically where these nodes are. Every 30 minutes, we ping. I was going to say we ping them, but in fact they send us data on their status, on which versions they run, etc. And we monitor it at this. I don't like to call it central server, but it's a facade that implements these extra monitoring features. What else? So at the moment we have 18 deployments of Coral. Not us, but I'd say that these institutions which resort to us for some kind of support as much as we can provide. Of course, we are naturally dependent on the updates of the stack and of DataSHIELD, but then they pull it from us. 13 of these nodes are from RECAP, and 5 from YouCanConnect at the moment. And if you go to this address, coral.inesctech.pt, you can find the releases of this distribution, and you can also find documentation about it, how to deploy it, how to configure it, and can also resort to us if you need help. I think that's all. I don't know if you have questions, suggestions, comments.
Thank you, Arthur. That's really good to see that. I think from the last conference, I think you started opening up the Coral thing for people to deploy themselves, and so it's really nice to see that map of additional users, I think, beyond RECAP. It's great. I think we have a hand up from Daniela, so I think you can unmute yourself.
Thank you. Hi. Thank you, first of all, for the very interesting talk. We have seen in the talk by Harald that we in Miracum have developed this poll extension, and we are actually also rolling that out via Docker distribution. And I am thinking if maybe you have also thought about how we can, if you could operate also such a thing, or if you are interested in a collaboration to work together with us to basically have the one installation Docker system for the several options of setting up the network.
For sure. I think we do need to kind of collaborate and entangle the different uses of the software stack, so that we end up with still limited resources, but but ways of doing this in the least expensive way, and to be able to maintain it, because at the end of the day, it's what costs here is people's time to keep these things up and running and tested.
Yeah, thank you. So I will just contact you then. Thank you.
Sorry, Artur, I put the wrong link into the chat because I think I can't spell it. I was just wondering whether you could just put up your slide that has the...
I just pasted the correct link.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, I missed out a C in INESC.
Yeah.
Why? Ollie's got a question. Ollie, do you want to go? We can't hear you. Ollie?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
We can.
Finally. Sorry, so I missed the bit when you mentioned the name of the software you were using for the monitoring.
For the monitoring, I believe it's Prometheus.
Sorry, it's what?
Prometheus, or at least check. It's one of these Nagios type thing. But I will confirm. Yeah, Prometheus and the Grafana for some of the graphics. Yes.
Your microphone's gone again, Ollie.
We lost you again, Ollie.
It seems every time.
Nope, it's gone again.
It keeps resetting to
No,
zero. Oh,
Does what?
The headset will work though, I think.
Well, if not anything else, just type it and I will try to answer.
my microphone
Okay.
setting the volume back to zero, which I don't know why it's doing.
It's being adaptive.
It's because he updated Zoom on Linux yesterday, wasn't it?
But at least his chat function works now.
Yes. Yes, the challenges of technology. I was just gonna ask if no one else has any questions, but I was just gonna ask about, I guess, what are the next steps for this? And obviously there's interest from Miracum to integrate additional infrastructure, and I think it's a really good idea if we could somehow converge so that Docker registries are just in one place. That would be useful. But I guess I know that RECAP obviously has ended. You Can Connect is still going, obviously. But I think it would be good to just, I don't know, do you have any, what are your sort of plans in the near future or long term around?
Well, so basically we cannot promise forever, but as long as we can keep the resources to do it, we are happy to do it. And there are several partners and ourselves also dependent on maintaining this set of nodes. So, I mean, again, it's a distributed system, but if it wasn't, I think we would not have people starting to roll data, even if there are always challenges like we heard previously, and sometimes we use synthetic data, and I mean, but still it kind of empowers people to know, okay, I still host and have my own data under my control, and this I see it as a very positive. Also in the way we have done things, you can keep more or less your own setting and switch off things or turn on other features. So we can kind of, there is still some space to customization, which is often important.
Okay, cool. I think it was really good to be able to hear from like a deployer perspective or an adopter perspective, because we've heard a lot from sort of like developers and also from the users. And so I think it's good to hear the challenges from the adopter side as well.
I mean, because the thing is that at some point it falls on empty land, because the researchers want to do analysis and to use data. The IT guys only take it up to some point, and in between a lot can happen that leaves a lot of people uncomfortable. So I mean, the goal is to try to set this gap.
Yeah. I haven't been looking in the chat other than my spelling mistakes. Is there anything else? If there's not anything else, we can maybe we can move on to our next set of talks. So the rest of the talks in this session are lightning talks until just before lunch. So lightning talks are like just a couple of slides, maybe 5 minutes long, and then a little bit of time for some feedback and comments from people. So the first speaker, who I think is assigned now, is Florian Schwarz from the German Institute of Human Nutrition, who's gonna, who I have to say definitely won for me with the best talk title. Some DataSHIELD error occurred, creating a new DataSHIELD package.
Yeah, that's a common complaint.
Yeah,
So-
so thank you. Do I hear some echo actually?
I'll mute myself.
Or was it just me? All right, so yeah, thanks for having me here. So I'm Florian Schwarz and I work at the German Institute of Human Nutrition in Potsdam, Germany. And the project that is called NFDI for Health. So it's about setting up national research data infrastructure for institutes here for epidemiological studies. And so since I'm new to DataSHIELD, so I just started my work in January, but have worked with R before, I obviously had to go through all of this again, or not again, but specifically for DataSHIELD, setting up local developer environment with all of these various things. But today I want to concentrate on something more specific on the client side functions. So I'll leave you to the wiki, which is actually great in order for new developers who might be present today here for this talk to check that one out and get some more detailed information on how to set up the developer environment. So when I started, I had a look at various different functions, mainly from the dsBase and base client package, obviously, in order to figure out what might be specific to DataSHIELD. And I mean, in general, in R, when you code some functions, you have your function with the arguments in the top, and you well, perform some checks for correct and complete input of arguments. This is then probably the message that some of the analysts might see back, a very specific one, not that one from my title.
Sorry,
so,
Florian, do you have some slide? Do you have a slide to show, or you?
Yes, I do.
Oh, sorry. You need to. Can you please share your screen?
I thought I did earlier. I'm very sorry about that one.
It might have been that you hadn't been made a co-host, but yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. So yeah, just let me go back in. Okay. So yeah, so I was not showing much very important. So just that you have a couple of things for the setup of the developer environment, and that you can have a look at it for the wiki later on if you're new to DataSHIELD, because it has great details. So for the generalized DataSHIELD function on the client side, obviously you have all of the function with the different arguments. You might have some method, etc. You are able to like put in new objects, etc. And I was just mentioning that then in the middle part, you have all of these small building blocks, is what I would call them, that perform checks for correct and complete input of arguments. And so this might be one of the messages that you receive back as an error on DataSHIELD. This is a specific one compared to the one that I put in the title. And then at the bottom, you have then the call for the server-side function, which obviously is then installed on the Opal servers. But so, yeah, like you have all of these different building blocks. And what I thought about next then is, all right, like with the arguments for the functions, how are they named? Like, is there any procedure? And I checked on various DataSHIELD client packages for that. And I saw that actually it's not that harmonized yet. So you can see that, you know, like you have like X name, a data name, and all of these various different types that developers used in order to specify input objects. So I thought together with the building blocks that are made up of DataSHIELD functions, that there could be an option to harmonize this process. And so for that, just have a look into RStudio, because what I did is have a like create a function, and maybe let's just go like into this first. So let you see that, yeah, you have like an empty folder of like your package environment, and there's nothing really in here yet. And so what the function creator does, what the function creator does is it will ask the people using it whether you want to include certain types in like creating an R script, like the function header information, whether you want to perform checks on the classes of the objects, or whether you have methods in there as well, and what generally the name might be and the object type. So when I'm running this inside the package, it will then create a new function in there with the name that I just like entered here in R at the bottom. So that could be then the new demonstration now, for just for demonstration purposes, function. And what it also does is that you can see it has all of these raw elements, like the building blocks that I mentioned earlier. So you can harmonize what you do. I mean, this is still a very early version of it, but you could like specify this more, and you have like your function name, etc., and what the input objects would be just based on filling out that one function, and the function will then create the R script inside that R folder, and also include the code lines that you want to have included, and specifically, obviously, then as well with the relevant elements for the checks. So I thought that could be useful for like new users to DataSHIELD to want to develop function, as well as maybe harmonize the process of creating functions a bit more. And yeah, with that, I think my 5 minutes are over, and I thank you for attention, and sorry for not having the slides on apparently in the beginning.
Thank you. We have a first question from Andrei. I think you can.
Yeah, thanks, Florian. That's brilliant. And I think you're right. You've definitely hit on an issue there that's difficult for a lot of end users, is that there is no consistency across many of the functions, and so you're switching around between these things. And your idea for trying to bring some kind of process for standardization is excellent. So just thank you very much. I don't really have, I'll leave the questions to other people.
I was going to say as well that perhaps this might be quite useful after Andrei gives his talk. This might be quite useful actually later on as well, when we're defining processes in the community.
Yeah.
Right, so Stuart was next.
Yes, yeah, very good, and I really appreciate all the effort you put into this. I just might make the observation that this could actually be very useful for us when we're looking at building a framework for adding extra information analysis to do with disclosure. So we're able to build a layer of software which indirects calls to the actual operations, and this would be very a good mechanism for us to build that. layer of software fairly quickly.
So yeah, like so the inspiration that I had for it was the use this package. Maybe some of you know for R, because in there when you enter the code for to initiate another test, then it creates like a raw, like skeleton, like R script function as well for the inside the correct folder. And this is actually where I got like the inspiration for. And so I think actually as well for not just like having like a skeleton for new functions, but also for the tests, I think could also be harmonized and made like easier applicable for other developers.
Yeah, I think the last person was Yannick. Do you want to go?
Yeah, so I was about to make a similar comment. So there is use that in R, and so similarly we could have a DataSHIELD package server-side and client-side generator. So it would set up all the interesting things like the test environment and generating the functions, etc., etc. And I would like to point out also that there is the dsLite package that helps in the development of packages because you can inspect what happens on the server side with this package. So it could be integrated to this project generator as well.
Thanks, Yannick.
Sorry,
Andrei.
Yeah, I've got one other question. So Florian, this is slightly nitpicky. You talked a lot about standardization. The slide that you're showing at the moment says, I think on the right-hand side, this is your GitHub, Florian Schwarz. Why have you chosen capital DS function creator and then small DS cluster analysis? Do you not want to harmonize that?
No, so the thing is that the cluster analysis and client are like proper like client server side functions, whereas this DS function creator is not like one that you could use in the normal sense of having like client server side interaction. So it's more like sort of like a helper function for like developers and not for analysts per se.
Okay, so that's okay. No, that's brilliant.
That's the only reason, because I didn't want people to get confused, so that they would think that actually this is something they could use for analysis.
Cool. Well, thanks. I mean, that's also reflective of the amount of thought that you've put into this. So thank you so much. It's going to be, I think, very useful to a lot of people. Yeah,
I think that was it's great, and I think that there's quite a bit of stuff going on in the chat. So Yannick has posted something posted a link to dsLite, and Stuart has put a request out for if there are any other community tools that can be added. So we started collating on the DataSHIELD website packages and also deployment tools that are built by basically everyone, because it's good for us to be able to share them wider in the community. So if anyone has got any other suggestions, Stuart, could you possibly post that link in the main chat? The link. Oh, there we go. Ollie's done it. So if you go to this page this is where we're collating community packages and tools. So we'll add DS function creator to this, and if anyone else wants to get in touch with us about their ones, that would be great as well. So thank you for that. And up next we have Demetris speaking. This is quite easy. So Demetris is talking about the dsMediation package, which I think Gabriella referred to during her talk yesterday.
Yes. How can I make this bigger? Okay. Can you see my screen? Okay. So yes, basically I will give an overview of a package that we developed a few months ago. It's called dsMediation, and we have also the dsMediation client. And this package is allow the user to do mediation analysis. And thanks to Gabriela, who presented yesterday the diagrams and explained what we call natural direct effects and what we call natural indirect effects. So if I want to give you a very brief definition of mediation analysis, is the statistical process that is used to explain a causal effect between an exposure variable and an outcome variable that is going through a third variable, which is called mediator. So in the first version of this package, we basically developed wrapper functions from 3 main native R packages. And these are the mediation, which includes functions where you can do mediation analysis based on a simulation approach. The second one is the MedFlex package, which is the counterfactual approach that Gabriela mentioned yesterday. So in this package, we include functions for mediation analysis based on weighting approach and on imputation approach. And the third one is the recommended package, which is a regression-based approach. So in this first version, we include these 9 functions. The names are similar to the native R functions from those 3 main packages. And we have this DS in front just to show that, to indicate that it's a DataSHIELD function. So in this first stage of the development, we have developed these functions and used the main arguments. So at the moment, we don't include all the arguments that the native R functions have, but we only use the main. And we have released this package earlier in the summer, and everyone can install it through a DataSHIELD repository from GitHub, both on the server side and on the client side. Also, at this stage, at the current version, the analysts can apply mediation analysis in each cohort separately, and therefore they can send the command to all the cohorts at the same time, but what they get back are the results from each study separately. And if they want to do study level meta-analysis, they have to do this in native R by themselves using common packages like the Meta or the Metaphor. Also, we wrote a tutorial script and demonstrated how anyone can use these functions through DataSHIELD. And also we compared the outcomes in this tutorial script with the outcomes that we get from the native R functions, and organized an informal workshop. Basically, this was informal by the meaning that we invited some people from the life cycle who are going to use this package during this period. In the second stage of the development, we plan to, basically we want to receive feedback from people that are going to use the package. And based on this feedback, we can add more arguments in the functions. And we can also develop new functions from those 3 main native R packages, or new functions about mediation that are coming from the literature. Maybe if a method is not including in an R package, we can develop the algorithm and convert that to a DataSHIELD function. Also, we want to add the meta-analysis inside our functions, so the user don't have to do it by themselves, and it will be a step of them inside the functions. And also, we want to develop the one-stage meta-analysis approach. This is what we usually call as the pooled mediation analysis. And we have some ideas on how we can do that, because all the functions of mediation package are based on, are using results from regression functions in DataSHIELD. So in a previous step, you apply regressions either using the dsGLM or dsGLM SLMA or the functions for the mixed effects models. And then when you get the results from these regressions, you can run the mediation analysis, having inputs the outcomes that you get from the regressions. Also, we plan to organize a workshop. But basically, we plan to organize a workshop through the Lifecycle Consortium, but also we are planning to organize, to demonstrate this package in our regular workshops that we are organizing through the DataSHIELD team. And also we plan to write a book down that can be used as a guidance for the users, and to write an academic paper. So that's it about the package. Thank you.
Thanks, Demetri. I was just going to ask, do you have a preference over how you guys want to receive feedback about the package if people are using it? For example, have you would you prefer it through GitHub or through the forum, or?
Yeah, we don't have a preference, but maybe through through both channels is fine. It will be good. Yes, at the moment I was thinking that something that sending emails either to me or to the DataSHIELD email, but you are right that posting on either on the forum or on GitHub will be visible to anyone, and
yeah,
I think that's the best option.
Yeah. I'm just thinking if people have this come across the same issue, then at least they know that it's already been reported once.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and I want to thank people from work package 7 of Lifecycle who assist me on these developments, because they know the theory about mediation analysis.
Cool. Has anyone got any questions? Oh, Juan has. Let's see if we can unmute you. No, wait, where are you? Wait, there you go. You should be able to speak now, I think.
Yeah, thank you. Demetris, do you have any idea how the meta-analysis of this mediation analysis will work? Because I'm not sure whether we can combine the effects. I don't know whether there is any study
that
has been applied this methodology, because
yeah, to be honest, I don't have an idea. I'm always discuss this with Lorenzo from University of Turin, and we need to discuss with him, because he also developed some new methodologies for mediation analysis, and I'm not very familiar with the theory, but we can discuss with him.
Becca, you're muted. Are you talking?
Gabriella has raised her hand. Here we go. I think you should be able to speak, Gabriella.
Hi, hello. Can you see me now? Yeah, but Demetris, sorry, I cannot activate my video. Just to clarify that we are waiting the installation of this mediation package across the cohorts due to the updates on the profiles, Mulgenis, well, some of the changes from Opal to Mulgenis, is that correct?
Yeah, basically your question is related to the Lifecycle project, and this package has been released in June this year, so it's available for any cohort to install it. But in Lifecycle, you have basically CEDO, who is responsible for the installation of new packages or the upgrade of existing packages. He wants to migrate the data from Opals to Armadillo, and then and use these profiles that he's developing before he install the package on the server side.
Great, okay.
And yeah. I hope that this process from his side will be as soon as possible.
Yes, he has already started with INMA last week. So hopefully it's going to happen soon. And just regarding the possibility to add new functions, were you by any chance also referring to the idea that we discussed about causal mediation analysis with a quantile regression? I think something like that as well could be added.
Yeah, basically, this because you have to do the regression before the mediation. This is another issue. It's another task if we want to develop function for quantile regression in DataSHIELD. Then we will be able, using these results that we are going to get from this functionality, to do mediation analysis on quantile regression. And I'm not sure if Paul can say we can do quantile regression through the existing dsGLM. I don't know if he's here, but the method that you sent me, Gabriela, it looks that is quite different than the current method that we have for generalized linear models.
Yes. Okay, so we'll have to discuss this further. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriela. We've got one more question from Jose. I'm going to unmute you. There you go.
Hey, well, it's not related with this package from mediation. It's something that Gabriela said about INMA. I understand fine that you said we are going to migrate to Armadillo. Gabriela?
I think, yeah, basically through life cycle, most of the cohorts in life cycle are migrating to Armadillo, with exception in 2 or 3 cohorts, including INMA. So if I am right, you did recently an upgrade of Opal, right?
Yeah, well, we have, Juan Ramon got a new server, and we are going to, immigrate somehow from the virtual machine that we have before, because we are lack of resources, to a new server that we have far enough resources of RAM and hard disk and all this stuff. But the idea is migrating to Opal, but I don't know, Armadillo, as far as I know, I didn't, the idea is Opal by now. I don't know, Armadillo we are going to migrate.
No, the idea is to have, as Angela said on the chat, Armadillo is optional. But the current case in life cycle is that many cohorts are migrating, but Opal is great. It's great if you are remaining with Opal. You can install the package now. I guess that you can use also the profiles.
Yeah. Well, actually, Juan Ramon is developing all these packages. So I don't know if eventually we are going to, but for this moment, we are going to continue working like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Right.
Hi.
Paul's coming in now.
Yeah. So I just wanted to. This is the issue of the Opal versus Armadillo. I think it's something that it's really important that this is something that's discussed strategically at a high level, both across the DataSHIELD community, but also within the specific projects that are dealing with it, because it's obviously CEDO does a huge amount of work in relation to moving over to Armadillo, but equally, because he's got so much to do, it means that at the moment, unless we work out some sort of joined up strategy, there's a risk that we could be sort of slowing some access to certain functions down in certain groups. So I would really like to see this discussed at a high level. It's something that needs to be discussed at UCAN Connect, definitely. But what I'm not sure whether maybe this is something that should be discussed within DataSHIELD itself, possibly, given that this is something that represents a project governance issue. is it something that maybe should be discussed at the DAB as well? Because I'm sure it'll arise with other things in the future.
So I guess I can jump in there quickly and say, yes, perhaps. I don't know much about the issue, but it certainly sounds like it is a big overall issue that needs to be discussed at a kind of governance level across, because it's not just going to be one consortium, it's going to be probably multiple consortia, and trying to figure out the strategic direction of DataSHIELD. And I'll be talking a little bit about that kind of governance stuff in a minute after the next talk. So I think it is something that we'll need to tackle over the next 6 months or so, but it's not going to be resolved overnight. I think that's fair to say. And I should probably hand back to Becca so that we can get on with the morning sessions now.
We're running early, it's fine. I know, I'm not sure how it happened, but yes. So next up, we have a lightning talk from Alex, and he's going to talk to us. He's going to let us know about all the DataSHIELD training opportunities that are about.
Yes. Screen sharing. So is that presenting?
Needs to go full screen. Yep.
There we go. So yes, I am taking the opportunity here to go a bit in depth into all the variety of what is available if you are a newcomer to DataSHIELD. So I'll jump straight in with this diagram that I created to try and think through everything that's available. So first of all, if you are a complete newbie, like I was not too long ago, the first place to go would be to the website. So from the website, you can actually access all these other materials. And in a few minutes, I'll be going to a screen share to show you the website, how to get to them. But going back to the top, say if you want to ask a question, you've been having a go at DataSHIELD yourself and you're getting a bit confused, then first of all, I would highly recommend that you go straight to the forum, because then you can write down your specific question in a specific space that has been set up for your particular level of difficulty. And the forum is a growing and collaborative community where everyone who actually posts on the forum usually gets emails and are quickly notified that you've created a new issue. And the group as a whole can come up with lots of different responses. So we can have like Stuart or Yannick responding, but we can also have other newcomers who had a similar problem to you responding. Another thing in the forum is, as you write your question, it will try to notice if anything similar has been posted recently and will direct you to that answer. But other ways to ask questions. So if you're comfortable to come along and speak to us over a Zoom session, we have our Zoom drop-in session every Tuesday, and that is advertised both on our website and in the forum. I'll show you how to get there in a second. Or maybe you want to receive instructions that are already created. Well, there's the wiki if you want to read about things. I'll go there and point out some key spaces. And there's also our workshops if you want to listen or watch a guided tour basically of how to use certain DataSHIELD functions. So workshops happen monthly for the newcomer sessions, and slightly less frequently we have more specialist workshops, and they get advertised through all of our various channels like Twitter, the website homepage. And if you ever miss a workshop that you really wanted to attend, they are, I think, always, certainly as long as I've been here, they're always uploaded to our YouTube channel very soon after. So if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, then you'll quickly get that notification and be able to watch it all the screen sharing, all the discussion and questions, and hopefully that should be almost as good an experience. So if I now transfer to the forum itself. So this, I'm in incognito mode, and this is what it will look like if you come here for the first time as a new user. So the sign up button up here is very simple. So you'll have to submit whatever email you're going to use. I've already got an account, so I won't do it right here. And then your username and password, and that creates very quickly and goes to your email, and that's how it's managed. If you wanted to get to other places in the DataSHIELD Online, well, there's quick links here to the homepage and to the wiki. So I'll close that and go across to where I'm logged in. Oh, it didn't work, but anyway. So say you wanted to go to beginner support, then you can go from this homepage here and into beginner support. And then you would create a new topic. And so, yeah, depending on the level of your question. So you've got a bit of beginner support, but also if you're a developer support, analyst support for more complicated questions after you're more accustomed to writing functions in DataSHIELD, etc.
Sorry, Alex, you're just sounding a little bit quiet. I wonder whether you need to.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a bit better. Maybe closer to your computer.
Yes, I'll try and lean in.
Thanks.
So for the drop-in information, so these are every Tuesday at the moment from 10 a.m. UK time. And there's usually 3 of us on hand. It's usually me, Stuart and Dimitri, but there's various other people like Tim who drop in as well who can answer lots of questions. And of course, there's no obligation, it's just a drop in. So whenever you feel like you need anything. And we can, I think 3 of us can give you screen sharing power so you can actually bring up your DataSHIELD code live and we'll have a look at it. Thanks to Tim Cadman for setting this up originally. We took it and ran with it because it was such a good idea. Then the workshops, they will be, as I said, advertised. And usually it's 1 hour of demo and 30 minutes of questions. That's the general formula, although the advanced workshops can last a bit longer. And we have one to advertise right now. So the monthly newcomers workshop will be 22nd of November this month, which is a Monday in 2 weeks' time. So we'd love to see loads of you there if you want to know more and actually see some live DataSHIELD code. So some specialist workshops. Recently, Tim Cadman did one on trajectory analysis, but they all get advertised on the DataSHIELD homepage. Yeah, so the advertising is on Twitter homepage, forum, which you'll get notified of. And we will, of course, talk about it in the drop-in session if you come to those on Tuesday. We do have a link here to go to the past events. I'll go to that right now. What's wrong with that? I'll go to it directly. So you go to support, get started, newcomers workshop. And these are the useful links like downloading scripts from the most recent session and then videos of the sessions prior to that. If you want to get to our YouTube channel, you can go to any of these websites and click watch on YouTube and it brings up our channel. So if I pause that and then head to knowledge, and then you have all of our uploads here. Moving on, the wiki. The wiki is a very large space with lots and lots of guides and tips. But there's some key places I want to bring to your attention. So I'll go to the DataSHIELD homepage. And then you can get to the wiki via this support tab here and then clicking on the wiki, which will open a new tab. So this is the landing page. The installation and training hub, which you can get to via this button here or through beginners help on the side, is one of the most important spaces for beginners because that includes both the installation instructions for all 3 platforms. That's Windows, Linux, and Mac. And then we've put together a vignette. So 6 different parts for learning how to use DataSHIELD commands in advancing levels of difficulty. Another thing to point out, I've heard as much used by newcomers, is this search function here. So if you wanted to learn how to create profiles or something very specific, you can search the entire wiki space here and see the most relevant articles. And then, yes, I've been showing you the website throughout this lightning talk. So I'll go to the home page. This button here takes you straight to the forum front and center. You can scroll down and you can get to our GitHub repos if you wanted to see the actual code. This is again to the forums, and then this is to our about page. And about DataSHIELD is also a place you go if you're just starting. So it contains text on the basics of DataSHIELD and how does it work and who uses it. So there's a very, very quick tour of all the different ways you can get about. Also wanted to point out the community packages, which is a new space under support community packages. But it's growing all the time, it's constant development, and it's a good place if you want to learn what's available that's beyond just the DSBase package. So that is me all done. Any questions?
Thank you, Alex. I really liked your diagram with the where you choose based on what format you want to receive training or support in.
Yes.
That was quite helpful. I've just tweeted that as well. So I think it's a good diagram. I will open up for questions. So if anyone's got any questions, you can raise your hand or post something in the chat. I think linking back to the previous, not the previous talk, to Florian's talk, is that I know that Juan posted in the chat the IS Global workbook for creating packages. So I was just wondering whether maybe we should start linking out to like other documentation that is like other formal documentation from other projects might be useful, I think, as well. Andrei's got his hand raised.
So I've got a slight response to that, and I don't want to confuse things massively, but one of the things that Alex and I and Stuart and I think a few other people have been talking about recently is trying to move in the coming months or so the wiki to a more to a format that is more accessible for other people to also be able to post to as well, and trying to get more community involvement in maintaining and updating and adding new information. So that's something that we've been talking about, and hopefully will be a new development in the coming months. But it's, yeah,
I mean, so I think that, well, yeah, the history of that, the wiki was because I set it up in Bristol, and they had a home Confluence instance. We didn't have to pay for it, obviously. And then when the DataSHIELD, when the group moved to Newcastle, obviously we weren't going to rewrite in a different wiki format the entire wiki that we'd created in Confluence.
No.
You know, we did just buy a small license, because obviously you have to pay to use Confluence, and we are limited by having only 10 people access it at the moment. But there's, I guess, there's some decisions to be made whether someone wants to export that out and then reformat it all and into a different type of, I guess, wiki or something, or whether we find a mechanism, a sustainable mechanism to increase the licenses for the Confluence that we've already got.
Yeah, I mean, now's not the forum probably to discuss all of that, but it was just to raise that it is something that's on the radar, is trying to improve the accessibility and participation.
Yeah, I mean, I think very easily what could happen is if people that did want to contribute to the wiki would have to cover the cost of their projects, would have to cover the cost, I guess, of their license. Initially.
We can talk about it another time, because we've got some ideas to make it free for everybody.
Okay. Right. Well, I think if there's no other questions, I think that you're up next anyway. So I think Andrei's going to give a report back from the DataSHIELD Advisory Board, which is exciting because the board we only decided that we were going to set up this board, I think, in the last in-person DataSHIELD conference, where we formally asked Andrei to come on board as our chair.
Yeah, so thank you very much. I am going to give a progress report from the DataSHIELD Advisory Board. My name, for those of you who don't know me yet, is Andrei Morgan. So as we've heard throughout the conference, really starting with Becca's talk yesterday, is that DataSHIELD has grown massively from the kind of standalone proof of concept software that it was originally to an enormous ecosystem, including lots of different packages, profiles, Rocha, Coral, all kinds of different softwares that are helping to contribute to the DataSHIELD type of analysis. And as part of this, it's a much larger, a much more international community than it was previously. And as Becca has just said, there was a decision a couple of years ago to set up a DataSHIELD Advisory Board. And so the Advisory Board was established around about this time last year in 2020. And the Advisory Board has a number of different aims. Specifically, the aims were to guide future direction strategically and operationally, to strengthen the planning, decision-making, development, and user support, and to ensure that there's a scalable governance structure, and so that we're no longer dependent upon a single kind of benevolent dictator model, but it's a much more community-orientated thing. And so using the website that Alex just highlighted, there is a section on the website about the Advisory Board. In the past year, what have we done? We've actually done quite a lot. I've been very impressed. The first thing that we set up or started doing was to put together a terms of reference for ourselves about what we were going to do and what the responsibilities were and so on. And then to think about it as well in the broader context of the DataSHIELD community and what the structure of the community should be like to tackle the aim that I already said of improving the kind of governance and community organization. The third thing that we've done is to organize this conference. And so thank you to everybody who's here today and participating. And some of the other things that we started to think about and that are kind of ongoing projects and that I'll talk a little bit about later in this talk are about the future community sustainability and about quality assurance. So just to go into a bit more detail about the terms of reference, and one thing that I'm going to say right now is that we want your participation, and so there's going to be an option about halfway through this talk for you to vote and I hope to approve some of the things that we've been doing. So one of those things is the terms of reference. So the terms of reference, this is the mission that we came up with. The mission of the DataSHIELD Advisory Board is to provide external insight and expertise to help guide the strategic direction of the DataSHIELD community to ensure longer-term sustainability and to assist in the promotion and uptake of DataSHIELD by others. The community in this context comprises the adopters, the contributors, and the users of the software. And the DataSHIELD Advisory Board will carry out these missions using an approach encompassing transparency, equality, diversity, and inclusiveness of community members. And hence why we'd like your involvement. The terms of reference are linked from the Advisory Board section of the website as well. So you can go and look at all of these in more detail if you wish. In terms of the actual kind of responsibilities, I think there are essentially three areas that we cover, and I've divided them up into communication, oversight, and leadership. And I was thinking about this last night. And so I've got on the next slides the actual responsibilities as they're described on the website under these three themes. So the first one is communication, and the responsibilities of the DAB, the DataSHIELD Advisory Board, are to effectively communicate the vision and purpose of DataSHIELD and the DataSHIELD community, and to improve communication across the DataSHIELD community. Secondly, in terms of, secondly, we have this is to promote the strategies for the implementation and the use of DataSHIELD-based research among existing research networks, to provide leadership and foster a respectful, inclusive and collaborative environment within the wider DataSHIELD community, and to specify processes, policies and procedures by which the DataSHIELD community members can contribute to the DataSHIELD code base and the resources, and then to advocate for and represent the DS community at external meetings and events, including the organization of the annual DS meeting, incorporating both the scientific and administrative or the routine business. So I missed one out there. And this is the oversight section. So it's to promote strategies, to identify strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats of DataSHIELD, and to review DataSHIELD related activities to avoid duplicate efforts and promote the improvement of existing ones, and to work with the DataSHIELD community on maintaining the core architectures that are required for the sustainable exploitation of a DataSHIELD platform. And then finally, in terms of oversight, to keep an overview of the activities, progress and issues within the DataSHIELD community. In terms of the actual members and the organization, we have a membership that includes 9 voting members plus the chair, who has a casting vote if required. And we review this membership every 2 years, and people have the options to step down in the interim as well. And if vacancies arise, then we will advertise that and incorporate new members onto the advisory board. The individual responsibilities of the members are to take a proactive role and to attend meetings regularly, and to contribute to the workload of the DAB and to advocate for DataSHIELD more broadly. In terms of our functioning, we meet at least 3 times per year. And in fact, this year we've met at least 5 or 6 times, I would say, to try and get things going. We've decided that the quorum would be 6 people in attendance at the meeting. And although we have a mechanism of using a majority vote to make decisions, we actually try to prefer consensus, and we try to get agreement amongst ourselves. And so we haven't yet needed to use majority voting. And in terms of transparency, we publish all the minutes from the meetings on the website once they've been finalized and agreed. And so you can go to the advisory board section of the website to find those. Finally, in terms of the rules of the DAB, we follow a code of conduct, and this is at present the code of conduct that is posted on the forum. We use a data policy that's according to the host institution, and that's currently Newcastle University. And we have regular review and update of the terms of reference as we require. So the big question is, who is on the advisory board? There are, as I've said, 10 of us. This is the 10 of us who are on there. So I'm a pediatrician and an epidemiologist. I'm a researcher, and I'm currently living in Paris, in France, where I've been for the last 10 years, last 5 years, working with the RECAP-Preterm project. Angela is an epidemiologist at the University of Copenhagen in Denmark. She's been actively involved in the life cycle projects, which is working to establish the EU child cohort and does research across that. Artur is a senior researcher at INESC in Porto in Portugal, and he's been there for many years now. And his research is applied in 2 major areas. It's personalized health research and also earth and ocean observation science. But the personal health research area currently divides into personalized internet-based treatments and human data storage and privacy preserving processing and controlled fair data sharing. Becca is an interdisciplinary researcher. She's had a career that spans space, atmospheric and health sciences, and she's now at the University of Liverpool and developing open source software for the sharing, access and immersive data visualization of sensitive health data. Juan Ramon Gonzalez is an associate professor at IS Global, where he heads the bioinformatic group in genetic epidemiology, and he has done a lot of work in the kind of genomics, omics development of DataSHIELD and DataSHIELD packages. And he is also an adjunct professor at the Department of Mathematics at the Autonomous University of Barcelona. Moving to the bottom left here, we have Kim Cachachagua Torres. Kim is a physician. She's got a specialist in healthcare management, and she's currently working with the Generation R cohort at the Erasmus Medical Center in the Netherlands. She's been involved in working with DataSHIELD as well. Rosa Gini is a data scientist. She's the head of the pharmacoepidemiology unit at ARS Toscana in Italy. And her main interest is in methodology to conduct pharmacoepidemiologic multi-database studies. She's been working on the conception project and has been advocating for the use of DataSHIELD in broader circumstances across Europe and across various different pharmacological consortia. Simon is a data steward for a new project at the German Cancer Research Center. He recently moved to Germany this year. He's working with genomic data, and he also works as a data consultant for the cancer research in the UK. And prior to this, he worked with the UK Data Service and was involved in the Safe Data Access Professionals Group, through which he developed a focus on the development of statistical disclosure controls processes for assessing disclosure risk, and really brings a very important added dimension to the work of the DAB. Stuart is a senior member of the DataSHIELD team. Many of you know him already. He's involved in all aspects of the development and maintenance, as well as a lot of the governance sides of the DataSHIELD. And he's been working as a visiting fellow at Newcastle University, and is also a director of the Arjuna Technologies company. And then finally, last but not least, by any means, Yannick Marcon is a leader of the Abiba project and owner of the Epigeny consulting company. He's been involved in DataSHIELD since the beginning and really has an immense amount of knowledge and is hugely able to contribute across all aspects of DataSHIELD. So we've got a very broad advisory board that covers quite a range of the consortia and the development and the history and the different areas that are required by DataSHIELD, which has really been marvelous to work with everybody. So in terms of the community structure, we've come up with a plan, an outline that we think is the way to go for the future, and we'd like to present it here. So first of all, there's the DataSHIELD community. It's an all-inclusive community. We've got this big box that represents everybody. And the focus really is the consortia and the other entities that are going to be using DataSHIELD. So we have here an example research consortium that has the data controllers, the investigators, the engineers, and the researchers. And really, DataSHIELD, the community, is about this user-focused. It is user-focused. And the users require various different tools. They require the infrastructural tools. They require the statistical tools. They also require educational tools. And so these are the outputs that come from DataSHIELD. We've heard about many of them throughout this conference. And these we could split up into various different themes, and we can have work groups around these different themes. So things like infrastructure development, the operational management, statistical development, education, and also communications and outreach. And then if we broadly divide these themes, we can divide those into two core groups, which are the tech side of things and then the process side of things. And this is the way that we propose things work. So these are the core work areas, and there'll be a lot of overlap. People will participate in probably several of these different themes and contribute to different outputs and so on. And then finally, some oversight in terms of the overview of what's going on. We propose that there should be a steering committee that helps direct DataSHIELD and keeps general kind of overview of what's going on. And then the advisory boards would feed into the steering committee, giving a slightly more external perspective over time. And then finally, we have here on the right-hand side, going alongside all of these different areas, the various different communication channels that we have. And there are dotted lines between these groups and communications, but it's to show that these are accessible to everybody and should be shared and used by everybody. So there are the Git repositories, the wiki, social media, the forum, and of course the website. So at this point, we're going to have a little interlude. There are 3 questions for your feedback, please. These are the 3 questions. They are: do you approve of the terms of reference? Do you approve of the membership of the DataSHIELD Advisory Board? And do you approve of the DataSHIELD community structure? And for each of these questions, you can answer yes, no, or abstain. I know that there are 40 people who are participating in the conference at the moment. And I'm going to hand over the screen now to Alex, who's going to put up a Menti poll, exactly as people have used for several other sessions throughout the conference. So here is the Menticom. Please use the code 27974490, and we'll give a couple of minutes just for people to respond to that. I'm also trying to respond. So just another minute or so. It's great, really great to see that everybody's saying yes, that you've approved. It is anonymous, so if you don't want to approve, then you can say no, or you can abstain, and I won't know who you are. I won't come and find you afterwards. Another 10 seconds or so, just see if there are any last votes.
Andrei, a countdown if you want.
Oh yeah, brilliant. Okay.
Not that one though.
I know, a minute works. Somebody said no.
So that's 5 seconds left. Right.
Brilliant. Okay, so thank you. We see there, everyone can see that the membership of the DataSHIELD Advisory Board is approved. So thank you very much. We'll now move on to the second question. So stay on the screen and it should refresh. And the second is, do you approve of the terms of reference?
Just let me know when it's a minute, Andrei, and I'll put the minute time on.
Oh, well, we know how many people who are voting now, so. Okay, how about another 10 seconds then, Alex?
Okay.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. So again, the terms of reference are approved by a large majority, a few abstentions there. But please do go and review the terms of reference on the website, particularly if you abstained. And we're always amenable to changes. We can discuss that in the DAB, and welcome to have feedback from the community. So please do feedback. And then moving on to the third question. Do you approve the DataSHIELD community structure? All right, we've had I think Juan makes a good point in the channel, in the chat channel, that it would be nice to know the opinion of the person that said no. You obviously, you're welcome to stay anonymous, but if you want to feed back anything anonymously or confidentially, at least to one of the members of the DAB afterwards, please do feel free to do so. But I think we can probably wrap it up there. So there's 10 seconds to go. Yeah, and it's closed. So thank you everybody for your participation in that. That's really important, and it's good for us to have some validation. And as I say, we're very open to having feedback and having participation. Becca, would you like to just ask a question quickly?
Oh yeah, sorry, it was just more comment, just to say that I think when we were writing up the terms of reference, we did use the forums. We did post those terms of references in the DataSHIELD forum to get comments back about those as we were working on them. And I think the plan is probably to do something similar with the proposed community structure. And yeah,
well, I'll move on to that in a minute. So yeah, you're but very right to point that out, that we did share the stuff in the forum. And one of the other things that I was discussing, I think, with Alex and Stuart and a couple of other people, was to perhaps have a section of the forum that is for the DAB, so that people can communicate with us more easily. So I'm just going to share my screen again. It's very annoying because the bar is at the top and it won't disappear. There, it's disappeared. Right, so just moving on to talk a little bit about community sustainability. This is one of the other topics that I mentioned. And so RECAP-Preterm did a lot of work thinking about sustainability and identified 5 major areas that are required for sustainability. So these are communication, outreach, maintenance of the infrastructure or having an infrastructure, thinking about funding possibilities and trying to get some money in, and thinking about the governance as well. So in terms of the DAB, how have we been dealing with this? Well, in terms of the communication, we're trying very hard to be transparent in what we do and to seek feedback from the community and to get community involvement. Obviously, that's not necessarily always possible straight away, but we're trying to be as transparent as we possibly can. In terms of outreach, people have been reaching out to both within the DataSHIELD community, but also outside of the DataSHIELD community, trying to highlight the potential uses of DataSHIELD in a broader sense in terms of analyzing data. In terms of infrastructure, maintenance is perhaps a little less relevant to us, but we've been discussing a lot with people who've been involved in developing infrastructure and providing advice. And we've also, in terms of the people who are hosting the current infrastructure that we're using for communication, so the things like the wiki and the forum and so on, we have regular conversations about how things could be improved and what our suggestions are. In terms of funding, there is a lot of ongoing discussion. This is a recurrent theme that we have on the agenda at every single meeting. And there's been a lot of discussion about various grants that have been upcoming, how people can collaborate, what funding possibilities are going on, and how money could be provided back to help maintain DataSHIELD for the benefit of everybody. And then finally, governance. Well, this is, as I've mentioned already, it's on the agenda. It's something that we've started talking about. Certainly we've started small in terms of talking about it for the DAB, but we've also started to talk about it in terms of the community. And there are kind of 2 big themes coming up in the next steps. So the first of these is quality assurance and thinking about the governance of the software itself and how we manage things such as the potential disclosure risks. And we all are happy and have been using the core DataSHIELD software now, some of us for many years, and we're relatively happy that there are very few disclosure risks with that, but there are certainly threats with the growth of DataSHIELD. So there are new packages being developed, there are new versions of packages, so of old existing packages being developed, and these potentially bring liability risks and potentially bring disclosure risks. And so we've been talking about how there could be some kind of seal of approval or something like that, some means of doing external audit, or I don't know what. There are many different ideas that are out there, and many possibilities for how we could provide some kind of quality assurance that DataSHIELD does as much as possible to minimize the risk of disclosure. The other thing is the governance of the DataSHIELD community, how we organize ourselves using the kind of community structure that has been suggested. And in order to tackle this issue particularly, but also the issue of quality assurance, we've decided to run a participatory workshop, which we have planned for March next year. And we'd like to invite members of the community to come to discuss the issues, to help us to draft a governance charter, governance structure for the community, and also to think a little bit about the governance of data, so the quality assurance problems. And as I said, this will be on Thursday, 17th of March, 2022. It will run from 9:30 to 3:30 UK time, Central Time, UK time, and from 10:30 to 4:30 in the afternoon in mainland Europe, or most of mainland Europe. There will be 2.5 hour sessions with a decent lunch break in the middle. So lots of time for involvement, and we'll probably break it up in small groups. We haven't quite decided yet, but to try and get people talking and involved in the future of the DataSHIELD community governance. So please do come along to that. Registration is now open already. It will be linked from, I'm not sure if it's linked yet, from the DataSHIELD website, but there is a link here, which I'm sure that Becca or someone will post in chat. I'm not following the chat at the moment, so that you can go and register. And we'd love to see as many of you there as possible to help us with the future growth of this community. So the only thing to say is thank you all for your involvement. This wouldn't be happening without you. It's not down to, at this point, it's not down to any individual. This is very much a group and a community thing. So thank you again. And that's it. Thank you. I'm perfectly happy to take questions if people have questions about the work of the DAB, or other members can also respond. Ollie, I see you have your hand raised.
Right, let's see if this works. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Fantastic. Right, so I have two sort of related questions. So the first one is, well, so have we still got Harold? Yeah, so we've still got Harold here. There's quite a lot of the sort of quite a big German contingent and work going on. How are we making sure that they're represented? You know, where do they sit in that sort of community scale? And second, slightly related question, where does Paul sit in the hierarchy of this? I'd always assumed he was on the advisory board, but
okay. So I'm going to answer the second question first, and Paul has been the leader. He has been the benevolent dictator of the project for the past however many years. And this was, I mean, the DAB was initiated at Paul's suggestion. He invited me to help set it up and to bring it together. I don't know, I don't want to stick words in Paul's mouth, but Paul is on the road to retirement, and he has very much chosen to take a back seat, I think, and he has wanted, so Paul is actually, there are a couple of members, special members in attendance, we call them, at the DataSHIELD Advisory Board. One of those is Paul, and the other one is Elaine. And I must say, I haven't said it so far, but Elaine has done a huge amount of work for the DAB over the past year, and we're extremely grateful for her organizational and her participation in the DAB and helping us to run it. So I would like to just say a big round of applause for Elaine, actually. Paul has been slightly less present than Elaine, perhaps, but we've valued his input every time that he comes. And yeah, that's, I think, it essentially. And Paul, I know, has his hand up at the moment. So yeah. Do you want to say something quickly there, Paul?
Yeah, thanks. So first of all, I want to back up everything you just said. Basically, I think it's important that I don't play a central role on the advisory board, because I've had my 12 years of contributing to the strategy of the project. I think it's now up to the younger generation that are going to take it forward. And it is moving in quite new different directions, which I think are fantastic. And I think with me being there, it wouldn't really hinder that. And in fact, the reason that I've not been, because it's not that I've been more absent than Elaine, in that it's that I've been totally absent. And to be absolutely honest, that's deliberate, because I don't want to contribute on a general basis. But if there are things, what I'd like to be able to do is provide, if there's advice I can give that can be helpful, I'd like to do that. So I'd rather just be there when you want me to be there.
Yeah, thanks. And I'd agree. I think Paul has been extremely available for us. Should we want to talk to him and get his advice. He does turn up to meetings from time to time. It is very helpful, but it's also good to provide a space for other people to express their opinions and ideas and thoughts. And we have on occasion invited other people along. I know that Tom came to one of the meetings, for example, Tom Bishop from Cambridge. In response to your second
can I say one other thing about it, actually, just quickly, Andrei? So I am very actively still involved in the project, but that's doing particular functional developments, with particularly Demetri. So it's just the strategic bit that I think I'm too old to be making a central contribution to.
And to carry on with that, I think this is about creating community and creating an international community of essentially a free software project, but used very much in the research domain and potentially usable in other domains as well. And so there are now, over the past couple of years, your first question, Ollie, there are now other groups that are producing substantial amounts of work that are contributing to the kind of DataSHIELD space, if you like, the ecosystem. And we want to try and provide the space for those groups to step forward to become part of the overall kind of governance of everything, and to have a equal participation. So just to respond, therefore, about your point about the German involvement, I think when we set up the DAB last year, so there are two ways I see responding. So the first is about the DAB. So when we set up the DAB last year, we put a call out on the forum, I think it was, and sent out via email, I can't remember exactly the details, to try and get people to who were interested in volunteering and in being part of the advisory board. And once we had a whole bunch of people who applied, I can't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head, we then made a selection. Unfortunately, at that point, Paul wasn't around, but Stuart and I made a selection with the help of Elaine to try and get as balanced a membership as possible. And we tried to balance that in as many ways as possible, taking into account the geographical spread, the spread of experience from junior through to senior, male and female, able-bodied and less able-bodied. You know, we tried to get a balance of experience and contributions to try and ensure that we had as many different viewpoints represented on the board as possible. I think whenever you try and do something like that, it's never going to be perfect. Mm-hmm. And it's also dependent upon the people that put themselves forward to be part of the board at that particular time. As I've also said, we don't want it to be, we don't want the board to be fixed entirely on those people for the next 100 years. There will be turnover, and there will be other opportunities for other people to get involved. And also, I don't think that the DAB isn't going to be the dictatorial body within DataSHIELD. We have proposed that there should be a steering committee that is set up that actually takes that role on and has a kind of more formal role in guiding the DataSHIELD community. But that's something that we still need to work with people to develop. And that's just a proposal essentially at the current time. The other thing, I don't know, I guess I've said, I think probably I've responded to the other point that I was going to make, was that it's about the community involvement or the kind of broader involvement. So not just who's involved in the DAB, but who's involved in the community. And we want the community. The reason we've proposed the structure that people just looked at and voted upon was to have a schema that is essentially as flat as possible, that really highlights the many different areas that are important within DataSHIELD. So like the infrastructure, the statistics, the education, various different points that are important and that can be contributed to by lots of different people and lots of different groups. And up to, or kind of historically, it's been a smaller group. It's been Paul's group who have been trying to cover many of these different tasks, but to try and show that these can be done by different people in different institutes, that there is no longer a core DataSHIELD group of people, if you like. There is some core DataSHIELD infrastructure, but there are people across the board who are actually contributing other things that are also core and essential, and to try and perhaps move away from that to become more inclusive and to get representation and involvement from people in many different countries. So I don't think we've got Simon Parker, who is now working in Germany, so we do have representation from Germany, but it would be great to get other input, and that is also why we have we've planned for this day in March, is because we really want people from across Europe, from across the different institutes, consortia, individuals, whoever, people that are interested in helping develop this community to come along and to contribute to that day. And so it's not just a group of individuals, so the DAB or Newcastle or whoever, that are dictating what happens, but that it really is participatory and involves everybody, and that everybody has a voice. So I hope that responds to your question.
I think you've exhaustively answered my question.
I was going to say, can we just take the last question from Madeline, who's patiently waiting?
Hi, and Andrei, sorry, I can't put on my video at the moment. You get to look at Data the dog. And mine was really a comment sort of along the same lines as Ollie, in thinking about who might be missing, what might be missing. And although I voted yes for everything, so I'm not the no one, so you can't unpack that, unfortunately. One of the things that is evident, and it was very evident yesterday, not just in Meta's talk, but also in the responses to it and the questions, and the ongoing concern about how to deal with the data governance part, the ethics access, etc. It seems that one of the things that is, or one of the types of people, or one of the areas of the structure that might well be missing is that ethical, legal, social aspects, implications bit. So I just throw it out there for consideration by the DAB.
Well, I'd like to respond to that. I'm not sure I entirely agree with you. I do agree with you in parts. I think Simon has a lot of experience in some of these issues and a lot of connections with people. The other thing is that Angela, this is just in terms of the DAB, Angela, in fact, is working with Meta and was involved in a project. Angela was the person that invited Meta, I think, to be part of the conference, and has also represented that kind of ethico-legal side of things. And it is something that has been discussed a lot within the DAB. And that is particularly one of the reasons why we wanted to have this day where we got broader community involvement, because we recognize that we don't necessarily have expertise in all the different areas. So we're not trying to be the body that dictates all of these things. And we would very much like people to participate and to contribute, and particularly in those areas of expertise that we do not actually have quite so much as the DAB. So I do agree with you. I recognize that there are deficiencies in terms of our skill set, but we want this to be a participatory thing across the community. And so it's also for the community to come forward and contribute the skills and the knowledge in the areas that we don't have.
I was just going to add that the workshop would be the ideal place for that to happen. To
exactly, yeah.
Broad perspectives, basically. Right. Oh, I'll load my hand. So I think that we are now going off for lunch, and over lunchtime, I'm going to open out the breakout rooms so that people can go and chat if they want. And Alex is going to share another poll question for us to get some feedback about how the conference has gone. And we are back at 1:30, and we'll be hearing about some of the releases of DataSHIELD and some of the infrastructure developments that have been going on and what's coming up in the future with regards to those. Right.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Becca.
Thank you.
And see people after lunch or during lunch in the breakout rooms.